Well, good morning, everybody. Just to get us started today, I want to show you a resource. I have this linked in today's report. It is just another way of looking at some satellite data, but it's a static image because this is coming from some of our low Earth orbiting satellites. And I was just kind of keen to look here at where the snowpack was across much of the plains and upper Midwest, but also just the effect of some of the really cold air that's coming across the Great Lakes. So this was yesterday, all right, but what it shows you is the orientation of those winds really blowing up some quite strong lake effect snow bands. These are all wind parallel. I think this is going to be an interesting thing to watch in this upcoming forecast. Now, there was another part of this that I found quite interesting. And if you just take a look, you can see actually from satellite a lot of open water. And just thinking about that, I'll take you up to a website here. This is a great one. It's called coastwatch.glerl.noaa.gov. And what it does is it kind of shows you Great Lakes ice data. Now, we're currently only about 11, almost 12% covered in ice, and that is certainly well behind historical averages. In this particular website, you can come down here and actually look at individual lakes. So, for example, in today's report, I linked Lake Superior. And when you take a look at it here, current ice concentration being this low compared to the last, we're almost going back almost 50 years here looking at ice concentration, which at times has been as high as 95%. So just important to see how warm things have been and what that's done to the Great Lakes. Now, to get this lake effect snow, of course, we got to have some really, really cold air going over. And this morning, looking at the 24-hour temperature change through 6 a.m. Central Time, we can see this is now, I've counted, I think, our fourth Arctic outbreak. We had the one that was in late November that set up all of the lake effect snow. We then had the pre-Christmas. We then had the one that started off about a week ago, setting up the ice storm that hit Texas. And then this one being the fourth big Arctic outbreak, where temperatures behind this front are dropping 20 to 30 degrees. And that flow is going to be coming out of the northwest all day long. And you're going to see here again, as it kind of gets wrapped up into this low that's just off the coast here, high pressure settling in behind it. And this is really going to produce some very, very long lake effect snow bands. I'll show you those in just a few seconds. But notice we've already got southerly flow coming right back up the middle part of the country. And we're going to keep a close eye on this system over the weekend as it nears the west coast. It could be an important system to watch for something coming out of the southern plains next week. Now, the temperatures right now are pretty chilly. As of 6:40 this morning when I was recording this, we had, negative 16 up here in Rhinelander, some places throughout Minnesota in that negative 10 to negative 20 range. So very, very cold. And again, this air is going to move right here over parts of New England very soon. Now, let's go from there back to here. To show you the effect of this, just take a look. By this morning already, we expect to see these very long bands of wind parallel lake effect snow. It's going to be quite interesting. Very different from what we saw in November, where the winds came across the Great Lakes, especially the eastern Great Lakes of Erie and Ontario, from this direction. So as we play through the day and the rain exits the southeast, we're going to see that colder air coming in. There could just be some impressively long lake effect snow bands. Much of the country through the weekend is quiet. There's a clipper rolling through parts of Ontario early Saturday morning, and we see another one coming through parts of Saskatchewan into Manitoba, again midday Saturday. But the northwest is where I'm going to be watching carefully this weekend. So Saturday into Sunday, this is the next big band coming in here. There's a low that's moving on shore, and it's got quite a bit of a setup to it, such that it could produce a pretty deep low that comes out in the central United States here pretty soon. But again, before we get to that system, we're going to have to deal with all the cold air that will be exiting here in New England. In fact, let's just shrink this up real quick because some of the wind chill values we're expecting in New England could be down as low as minus 60 degrees Fahrenheit. And I did link in today's report the Mount Washington Observatory because they've already had gusts of 94 miles an hour this morning. They're expecting even stronger winds later today, which means in Mount Washington we could see wind chills below minus 100 Fahrenheit at some point. So just keep an eye on that observatory. Now down south where all the very heavy precipitation has been, and of course this just massive ice storm, it'll be historic. It'll go down as one of our $20-23 billion weather disasters. We're now going to see some flooding in the aftermath of that, especially some dense fog here as well. But some strong winds on the backside coming into Montana. And what I'd like to do next is kind of flip over and just quickly kind of wrap up that discussion on temperatures. So today's highs, parts of New England struggling to get above minus 10. So very, very cold in the interior here. But as we talked about all week, this was kind of fleeting. I mean, by Saturday into Sunday, much more mild air is moving across the country. And as we work our way into next week, this is Monday into Tuesday, Wednesday, and even out to next Thursday, we just continue to see open Pacific flow, mild air coming in, no high latitude blocking, and the models want to keep that rolling all the way through the middle of the month. So we've been looking at this all week, and it just shows us that the model's been quite consistent with keeping cooler air initially throughout the Intermountain West, and then toward the end of the time period starting to build some of that into Western Canada and then coming in through the north. But we're going to make it through most of the midway through February with mild air east of the Rocky Mountains, and not even that cold along the west coast. It'll just be in the Intermountain West. I think the coldest air is going to be. Now, I want to come back to the precip. I feel like we're bouncing around here, but the story kind of interweaves itself. We've already seen through this weekend, but let's do this multi-model comparison, picking up with when that system hits the Northwest and California on Sunday. You notice we will be adding some snow here to the Sierra Nevada, interior of Oregon, and the Cascades, and that system is going to come out just as we described yesterday as kind of two parts. There's an elongated trough all throughout the central part of North America. So the northern part is a clipper. The southern part in both models is going to emerge as a low, probably coming out of eastern Colorado and then showing up right here in the Red River Valley of the South, So what's neat about this is that the low that's up here will leave a front that'll come all the way down through Illinois and Missouri. And the next low which forms here will just ride that front. It'll just follow it. That'll be the pressure trough along which it develops. And it's being fed by plenty of moisture around the high pressure over the east. And we're going to watch in both models as this system just rolls right up along that front. Again, the European model, because it's quicker to push the high pressure off the coast of North Carolina versus the GFS, which leaves it here, means that the system moves more quickly. See, remember, the flow around a high is like this. So that means it's going to shove the system up the front real quickly. With the high pressure cell in the GFS just sitting here, that's suppressing the development of this low and how quickly it's going to move. So the European model next week is quicker with ejecting this system into the Midwest and eventually the Great Lakes. But that gets us out there about a week in total with precip. So let's see what happens when we add this all up. The West has a couple systems coming through, and so this is great to see through Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday of next week. Multiple chances of getting some snow here in the Cascades, the Blue Mountains, parts of the Northern Rockies, and then the Klamath Range here, and then down through the Sierra Nevada. I mean, some places picking up 15 to 20 inches of snow, which is good because we kind of flatlined after we got into the latter half of January. But total precip from the European model looks something like this. And with that system coming out, there it is, right? Watch right here. Next Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. There's a couple of important things to take note about. Much of the plains is drier. There's a little clipper coming out, Montana into North Dakota, a little bit of snow here, but the plains, Canadian Prairie are drier, and this is going to continue to put pressure, I think, on the drought situation there. Better moisture's coming into the west, but we're going to continue the flooding problems that are happening down here in the lower Mississippi River Valley and surrounding states with this pattern. Bigger picture, that seems to be the case going forward. The newest updates from the European model, which we talked about last night in the in-depth report, shown again here this morning, just continue to favor that big southeast ridge and weaker flow in the Pacific, and the result is a temperature and precipitation pattern like you've seen here. If you get a chance to watch the video from last night, I do a little bit of model verification, which kind of lends a little bit of trust to this overall. I like seeing better precip in the Northwest. We need to pick up more snow here to really work on our water picture. But what I'm concerned about is if you get west of the Mississippi River, it would appear that through early spring, mid-March here, that we may not be able to undo some of the long-standing subsurface soil moisture issues in this area. I think we can improve here. I think there'll be a lot of flooding over the south, but there's going to be an issue in this area of returning moisture. There's a lot of snow there, but there's not as much water as I would want in that snow in parts of the plains. So that's going to be an ongoing discussion we're going to have in most videos between now and spring. So I'll talk to you again after the weekend. Enjoy your weekend, and we'll talk soon. Thanks.